Olive pressed her face against the subway window and tried to cry quietly. It was almost midnight on a Tuesday, and the train car was nearly empty except for her and a handful of strangers who pretended not to notice the woman falling apart in seat 4B. She'd held it together all day. Through the meeting where her boss fired her. Through the phone call where her landlord told her the building was being sold and she had 30 days to vacate. Through packing her desk into a cardboard box while her former coworkers avoided eye contact. But now, alone on the last train heading nowhere, Olive broke. The tears came hot and fast, streaming down her face faster than she could wipe them away. Her whole life had imploded in 6 hours, and she had no idea what to do next. Someone sat down beside her. Olive didn't look up. Didn't want to see pity or judgment or worse, that careful blankness people wore when they decided your pain wasn't their problem. Then something warm and soft draped across her shoulders. A jacket. Expensive. Still holding someone's body heat. Olive looked up through blurred vision at the man who'd just given her his coat. He was Korean, maybe early 30s, with dark hair and the kind of face that looked like it smiled often. He wasn't smiling now, though. He looked concerned. "You're shaking," he said quietly. "The AC is too high in here." Olive wasn't shaking from cold. But she pulled the jacket tighter anyway because it smelled like cedar and something clean, and because no one had offered her kindness in so long she'd forgotten what it felt like. "Thank you," she whispered. The man nodded, settled back in his seat, and didn't ask questions. Just sat there like a quiet anchor while Olive tried to pull herself together. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button because this story is about to warm your heart. I post these every week. 3 stops passed in silence. Olive should have given the jacket back and moved away. Should have thanked him and returned to her private breakdown. But something about this stranger's calm presence made her feel less alone. "I'm having the worst day of my life," she said suddenly. The man turned to look at her. "You want to talk about it? You don't want to hear my problems." "I wouldn't have asked if I didn't." Olive laughed, a broken, wet sound. "I got fired today. My landlord is selling the building, so I'm losing my apartment. I have 30 days to find a new job and a new place to live, and I have exactly $800 in my bank account." She wiped her face. "So yeah, worst day ever." The stranger was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'm Minjun. And I think I can help." "Help how?" "You got a job and an apartment in your pocket." "Actually, yes. Sort of." Olive blinked. "What?" Minjun pulled out his phone, scrolled through something. "My sister is a journalist. She's on assignment in Seoul for the next 6 months. Her apartment is sitting empty and she's been worried about it. I was going to hire someone to check on it weekly, but," he looked at Olive. "What if you stayed there instead? No rent. You just keep the place lived in and safe." Olive stared at him. "You're joking." "I'm not. You don't even know me. I know you're having a terrible day and you need help. That's enough." Minjun's expression was sincere. "I'm not trying to be weird. I'm not asking for anything. My sister's place is empty. You need a place. This solves both problems. Why would you do this for a stranger?" "Because someone did it for me once." Minjun looked out the window. "When I first came to the States for grad school, I had nothing. A professor let me stay in his guest house for free until I got on my feet. He said, 'Pay it forward someday.' So I am." Olive didn't know whether to laugh or cry harder. "This doesn't happen in real life. It's happening right now." Minjun stood as the train slowed for the next stop. "This is my stop. Come see the apartment. If you hate it, I'll get you an Uber home. If you like it, it's yours. No strings." Olive looked at this stranger offering her a miracle on the worst night of her life. She followed him off the train. The apartment was in a nice building in a neighborhood Olive couldn't normally afford. 15th floor. Big windows. Actual furniture that wasn't secondhand. Minjun unlocked the door and flipped on the lights. 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Kitchen small but functional. Wi-Fi password is on the fridge. My sister left some clothes in the closet if you need anything. Olive walked through slowly, touching things to make sure they were real. The couch. The bookshelf. The bed with clean sheets. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked. Minjun leaned against the doorframe. "Honestly? Because I saw you crying and I thought, what if that was my sister? What if she was alone in a foreign city having the worst day of her life? I'd want someone to help her." He handed Olive a key. "So I'm helping you." Olive took the key. Her hand was shaking again. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay. Say you'll let yourself catch a break. Minjun smiled. Say you'll stop crying on subway trains. Olive laughed. Actually laughed. Okay, I'll stay. Good. Minjun pulled a business card from his wallet. My number's on there. Call me if you need anything. The building super is Carlos. He's on speed dial by the buzzer. There's a grocery store 2 blocks down. He headed for the door, then paused. Get some rest, Olive. Tomorrow will be better. How do you know my name? You told me on the train. No, I didn't. Minjun grinned. Okay, I saw it on your work badge in your bag. I'm observant, not psychic. He left. Olive stood in the middle of this beautiful apartment that belonged to her for the next 6 months and cried again. But this time, they were good tears. The next morning, Olive woke up in an actual bed for the first time in years. Her old place had only had a futon, and checked her phone. Text from Minjun. Asterisk coffees in the cabinet above the microwave. You survived the night? Asterisk. Olive smiled. Typed back. Asterisk I survived. Thank you for this. Asterisk. Asterisk don't thank me. Just enjoy it. And let me know if you need anything. Asterisk. She wouldn't need anything, Olive told herself. She'd figure out the job situation, save money, and be out of Minjun's hair in a few months. But then her phone rang with a job interview she hadn't applied for. Is this Olive Richardson? The woman asked. Minjun Park referred you for our marketing coordinator position. Are you available to interview tomorrow? Olive almost dropped the phone. She called Minjun immediately. Did you get me a job interview? I mentioned to a colleague that I knew someone talented who was looking. She did the rest. You barely know me. I know you carried yourself with dignity while your world was falling apart. That's all I needed to know. Olive got the job. 3 weeks later, she invited Minjun over for dinner to say thank you properly. She wasn't a great cook, but she tried pasta, salad, wine she probably couldn't afford, but bought anyway. Minjun showed up with dessert and flowers. You didn't have to bring anything, Olive said. Yes, I did. It's rude to show up empty-handed. He set the flowers on the counter. Besides, I wanted to. They ate. Talked. Olive learned that Minjun was a civil engineer who designed bridges. That he'd moved to the States at 22 with nothing but a scholarship and a dream. That his sister was his best friend and he missed her constantly. Minjun learned that Olive had wanted to be a writer but settled for marketing to pay bills. That her mom had died when she was 19 and she'd been on her own ever since. That she was terrified of needing people because everyone she'd ever needed had left. I'm not going anywhere, Minjun said quietly. You don't know that. I do, actually. He reached across the table, took her hand. Because I like you, Olive. Not because I pity you. Not because I'm being charitable. Because you're smart and funny and stronger than you think. And I want to keep knowing you. Olive's breath caught. Minjun, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. He squeezed her hand, then let go. Finish your wine. Tell me about the worst marketing campaign you've ever seen. So she did. And they laughed until her sides hurt. And Olive realized she was falling for him. Over the next 3 months, Minjun became part of her routine. He'd text her good morning. Bring her coffee on Fridays. Show up with takeout when she worked late. Never pushed. Never demanded. Just existed in her life like he'd always been there. Olive started leaving his jacket on her couch, the one he'd given her that first night. He never asked for it back. One night, 4 months after the subway, Olive wore it while cooking dinner. Minjun noticed. That looks better on you, he said. You want it back? No. I like seeing you in it. Olive turned from the stove. Why? Because it means you kept something of mine. Means maybe you want me around. Maybe I do. Minjun crossed the kitchen in 3 steps. Stood close enough that Olive had to tilt her head to look at him. Say it clearly, he said. I need to hear it clearly. I want you around, Minjun. I want you here. I want. He kissed her. Soft at first, then deeper when Olive's hands fisted in his shirt and pulled him closer. Like coming home. Like safety. Like everything she'd been too scared to hope for. When they broke apart, Minjun pressed his forehead to hers. I've wanted to do that since the subway. Really? Really. You were crying and beautiful and breaking my heart. I wanted to fix everything for you. You did fix everything. No. Minjun cupped her face. You fixed everything. I just gave you space to do it. They stayed like that, wrapped around each other in the kitchen, while dinner burned on the stove and the sun set outside. 6 months after the worst day of her life, Olive had a job she loved, an apartment that felt like home, and a man who looked at her like she was his favorite person in the world. Minjun's sister came back from Seoul, told Olive she could stay as long as she wanted rent-free, because anyone her brother loved that much was family. A year later, Minjun proposed on a subway platform at midnight. "This is where it started," he said, dropping to one knee. "You were crying. I gave you my jacket. And I knew even then that I'd never want it back because I'd never want you to leave." Olive cried again. Happy tears this time. "Yes," she said. "Yes, yes, yes." They got married 6 months later. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. Minjun's sister was the maid of honor. She gave a speech about how her empty apartment had become a love story. On their wedding night, Minjun wrapped his jacket around Olive's shoulders, the same one from that first night. "Still fits," he said. "Still warm," she agreed. That's because it was never about the jacket. What was it about? It was about seeing someone who needed kindness and deciding to be kind. That's all. Minjun kissed her forehead. "Best decision I ever made." Olive pulled him close. "Second best." "What's the first?" "Sitting next to me on that train. I'd do it again. Every time." And Olive believed him. Because sometimes the worst day of your life leads to the best year. Sometimes a stranger's kindness changes everything. And sometimes, the person who gives you their jacket is the person who teaches you what love actually looks like. The end. If you made it this far, drop a comment telling me what story you want next. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week.